Welcome to What's Up Wichita with Mayor Brandon Whipple. Thanks for joining us. With us this month is United Way President and CEO Peter Nájera. If you have questions for Mayor Whipple for next month's show, email social@wichita.gov.
Hi, I'm Mayor Brandon Whipple, and I'm here today with Pete, President and CEO of the United Way of the Plains. Pete, thanks for joining us today. Wanted to first thank you and your organization for all the work you do in our community, not only now when this work is so needed, but also throughout your history. Wanted to know roughly, when we see the economy down, we're going to see services from our nonprofits go up. How's the United Way been doing in handling these really tough times?
Yes, the United Way has been doing what it always has been doing for Wichita and the larger region for the last 98 years, ever since we first had the community chest stood up by community leaders that said, hey, can we help those most vulnerable in our society? And for the last 98 years, the United Way has continued to do that through all kinds of disasters, whether they are a natural disaster like a tornado, an economic disaster like a recession or a layoff, and now we are faced with our first infectious disease disaster. While the response may be, the tactics to respond are a little different, we are trained and ready to respond and be there for the people in times like this.
Yeah, I mean, you guys played a huge role, particularly in the beginning of this. We had the shutdown. This is really before we knew the value of masks and how we can control the spread with masks. We had that shutdown early on in the year, and we know that folks were somewhat panicking. Some people were overbuying products, toilet paper, and then feeling bad and reaching out and saying, who can I donate this to? And I had a meeting with your predecessor and some of the leadership over at the United Way about, hey, can you guys be that place that not only can help distribute supplies, but also if someone bought too much toilet paper and wants to donate those supplies. And I was just so impressed working with the leadership team over there with how they were willing to step up, but also just how they've always done this. They had the experience. They were the natural fit for something like this. So, and then you came on a little later. So can you talk a little bit about your transition to the United Way and carrying on this mission, this legacy that really has helped us quite a bit this year?
The United Way was very at the forefront in the community at that time. Even just before the pandemic, if you recall, we had the grounding of the 737, which really had an impact on our economy, and the United Way stepped up to provide surge capacity to the already existing nonprofits so that we could help those workers who were out of a job. And then the pandemic struck, and then we saw more people out of work, and we saw people concerned about what to do. And so our 211 center that does social referrals was called upon by your government and others to help take the load off of 911 and other places so that we could help serve people. And I remember being on the sidelines watching the United Way do this. I was at the Rudd Foundation that does a lot of philanthropy around the country, but we were really focused here in Kansas standing up a scholarship program for low-income, high-achieving kids so that we could keep that talent right here in Kansas and stem the net migration loss and the brain drain we were seeing when the United Way opportunity came calling. And for me, it was a chance to step into a larger platform to help even more people. And as you said, during that pandemic, our 211 center really spiked. We set up a resource center to help those out of work and provide them assistance in rent and utilities and food and medical bills. And we've seen a 250% spike in activity. And we will help well over 100,000 residents in our region to get through this pandemic in partnership with government and business.
The collaborative effect of layering not only nonprofit, but also church services, also our government entities that blend in and collaborate during times of crisis here in Wichita is really amazing, like absolutely astounding. And it's interesting how each, organization fills in a gap of another organization. One of the things I love about United Way is its 211 line, and one of the real important reasons for that is because a lot of folks who need this might not have the internet. It's something we take for granted. I think that particularly younger generations, I'm considered a millennial. I got the internet when I was in high school. Yeah. But there are folks, such as my parents, who would have a very difficult time navigating a website from their smartphone, or my grandfather who doesn't have a smartphone. So having that 211, an actual phone number to call, really is impressive. It really separates, I think, the United Way from other organizations that might just have a really good website. Can you talk a little bit about 211, not just in this pandemic, but what it's used for some of our viewers who might not be familiar with 211?
That's right. So we do house a 211 call center, if you will, with trained specialists in there. 211 is the social referral line. It's akin to 911, but we get people who call us who are suddenly homeless, cars broke down, child has substance abuse, mental issues, depression, you name it. Even if they have, citizens have no idea where to go or how to start, we tell them just dial 211 because that center has connections with over 3,000 different agencies that can provide you food at that moment. They could put a roof over your head. They can help with utilities, get you set up and through the short-term crisis that you're dealing with, and then transition you into a long-term solution. And so that 211 center has been in the community for well over 2 decades now and continuing to serve the people of Wichita.
So someone who's going through a crisis, let's say they find themselves homeless, they are in need of some type of social service, or someone close to them are, calling 211 is that resource that can get them in touch with the right organization or the right service.
That's right. And as you mentioned, you can call it. Older generation will use a landline, a phone like that. But even for middle-aged and younger people, let's say you're a runaway or you're lost your way, we do take texting, email, websites. We're on all social media platforms. People DM us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll respond.
That's excellent. So want to just pivot just a little bit about the holiday season coming up. We are seeing people in our community, but really on the news, communities throughout our country where people are struggling right now. Folks are out of work. We have a record number of folks in our country who are on unemployment in really awful situation. And I'm sure the United Way has been tapped quite a bit to fill in this gap, maybe more so than in other disasters, because this disaster has been going on for months now. Can you just talk a little bit about how the United Way is bridging the gap of need in our community right now?
That's right. Well, that's kind of our specialty, I think, that we really pride ourselves on collaboration and our efforts to achieve collective impact. We'll partner with government, with business, and other nonprofits to stretch those charitable dollars. And for every dollar we get, we want to have $1 to $2 of impact on the ground. That means reducing redundancies, increasing efficiencies, seeing where the gaps are, and spreading the resources, limited resources out so that we can cover as many people as possible. However, finding resources is very difficult for all nonprofits, including the United Way, while the demand is even higher. And the pandemic has added additional costs when it comes to PPE, safety, cleaning, pivoting to an online environment, and even having less volunteers and people to respect social distancing. So you have half the workforce to deliver twice the workload. And so for folks like us who are blessed to be in jobs and working, we've been asking people to dig deeper than ever to try and contribute more than you usually do to help those in need. And what I love about Kansas is you're always impressed by the caring power of this community, because if the shoe were on the other foot, those Kansans would be digging deep into their pockets to help you. And so
that's exactly right. And it's interesting. I think we're one of the better communities to be going through a pandemic, because in Wichita we have that culture where we come together, we help one another at a time of crisis. But you mentioned you guys aren't immune to the difficulties of COVID. I remember touring building the organization early on and seeing the adjustments that had to be made to allow social distancing and have still the 211 center going. And also hearing the stories of staff who normally might be working in a different area, now working the 211 line because of the increase in demand. And the demand increases, doesn't mean you guys' staff increase. Yeah. But to your point about how we also need folks who can make contributions. If there's, and I believe the city of Wichita, actually, we are a sponsor of the United Way. Can you tell us a little bit about, if you're a business watching this now and you're interested in end of the year making contributions, how you could better get involved with the YMCA at that level? Not the YMCA, excuse me. The United Way at that level.
No, it's very simple and very easy. First, any business can call 211, and they'll refer you to me or the appropriate person on our team to help tailor your giving to one of our causes. And we do that all the time. Many of the corporations and companies of Wichita have already stepped up to the plate. Not only are they giving, they're giving even more than usual because they know this dynamic and they want to help their brothers and sisters on their left and right. But they can also go to our website, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. There's always ways, very simple ways to donate online 24/7 from your couch watching Christmas movies with your children or on a break at work. And it's very simple to give. And that's what we just ask. We just ask that you give to the United Way so that we can spread that caring power of our community to help those who need it the most.
So for those of us who might not be able to give a large donation, small donation, what's the best way to give that? Is it just going through online and go through the portal and
That's right.
making a contribution?
There's a donate button online. I think the majority of Americans across the country do give that way. However, we still do get $5 checks in the mail from people who, that's how they bank and that's how they give. We even get money from those who are out of work and are receiving services from the United Way and just feel compelled to give, and they'll write me a letter that says, here is $5. I get more from the United Way than I can give, and I want to help those that are in my position. I also get letters of very successful people who say, when I was down and out on my luck, you were there for me. I don't need your resources now, but I'm giving so that you could help somebody who was like me get back on their feet. And that's what our economy needs. That's what strengthens our community.
Right. Becomes full circle.
That's right.
So for those folks who might be out of work, one of the things that happened early on, and shouldn't be surprising because of the heart of Wichitans, folks who were laid off, they were out of work or furloughed, were to reach out and say, hey, I got time on my hands. What can I do to help get our community through this? Where can I volunteer? Is there anything that I can be doing? We know the United Way is pretty much a one stop for access to all these different organizations. If someone wanted to volunteer for the United Way or another organization, could they also reach out and kind of get a lead on the best place to, best way to use their time?
No, great question. Exactly right. The United Way, I think, runs the largest volunteer coordination center in the city, in the region. Last year we had over 12,000 individuals come to us and say, how can I help my neighbor? That resulted in over 50,000 volunteer hours, which is close to $1 million in value giving back to the community because people want to, we have this ethic of leaving no neighbor behind. And so online they can see all the volunteer opportunities we have. However, if you call our volunteer center, our specialists will tailor a volunteer experience for you or your company to match you with your passion or your causes, because we know hundreds of nonprofits and what their volunteering needs are, and we love matching volunteer interests with the needs of the nonprofit, and that way we have a more successful outcome. We see that impact in our community, and those volunteers will keep coming back.
Wow, that's great. I wasn't aware of that. That's a really good service for folks who want to probably bring a church group out, bring a business out. They can have a customized experience.
We customize high school seniors during spring break. We customize for college students. And of course, all these businesses who give financial resources to the United Way love the volunteer aspect because they're building corporate social responsibility plans because we know now employees demand that of their employer now. They want to be connected to their community, and employers see morale go up, retention go up, and it's a win-win for the business and for the community.
Excellent. Well, is there anything else you want to add? I mean, I think that this is really good information, and we hit on a lot of different areas. Is there anything, as we come to the end of this conversation, that you would like the public to know about with the United Way?
Yes. Well, the United Way continues to adapt and evolve with the times. The pandemic has forced many businesses and nonprofits to change, and we're no different. In 2021, we look forward to a great year. We're rolling out a new mission, a new vision, a new set of values to connect us with our community. We want to be at the forefront of the most relevant needs that our citizens are calling for, and so we need to be more responsive and more adaptive, and we're well on our way to do that so that we can be serving the people of South Central Kansas for another 98 years.
Well, we appreciate everything you're doing, and really appreciate you coming out, President Pete, for being here, spending some time with us today, and talking to our viewers about the great things that are going on over at the United Way. Again, if you'd like to give to United Way, you can do so either online, on their website, or by texting the code UW-PLAINS to 41444. That's UW-PLAINS, 41444.
All right, Mayor. So we got a bunch of questions this week. Has the mayor considered trying to rein in the local payday lenders like Speedy Cash? She says, these loan shark businesses prey upon the poor and seem to have no limits whatsoever on interest rates that they can charge to desperate people. She says, I know that other cities have put limits on these kinds of businesses. Just wondering if city leadership has considered regulation.
So actually, that's a really good question, and we have seen action from our community organizations and from our activist community when one of these lenders go into particular neighborhoods. As far as taking action on trying to regulate, if we can make these loans more fair, or if there's any type of zoning that would make it so only certain type of businesses can go into certain areas. That's something that Brandon Johnson, a council member from District 1, has been working on quite a bit. So when it comes to moving that type of policy forward, my job as mayor would be to come alongside the work that's already been done or that is being done to see what our options are in hopes of bringing folks to the table to figure out what can we do to be more equitable when it comes to not just these businesses, but really the folks who live around those type of businesses. So to be short answer, it's something we got to keep working on, and it's something that has been worked on by a council member already since before I've gotten here.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Lisa Lewis. Mayor, Broadway north of 13th is in bad shape. Are there plans to fix it soon? And she says it has a lot of traffic on it.
Yeah, they won't let me use any of the big equipment, so I can't go out and I looked into this. But I will say that when it comes to our street maintenance, in particular in certain areas, North 13th, for example, is one of these areas that we could be doing more to repair the streets and get them up to standard. I was on a call yesterday where we were looking to do some work over on the 13th and 21st area. So I know that our staff who work on street maintenance are looking at that area of town, and we are having talks about what can we do not just to make the streets better for folks who drive cars like you and I, but also for trucks that go through, also for commerce. Once we have over on 21st Street in the even further north, we have a lot of advanced manufacturing. So we have trucks that come in and out. That takes a toll on those streets. So what can we be doing to, when we make improvements, do so purposely so that they actually help some of the commerce traffic, as well as making sure that you're not changing your suspension every other year in your car, right? Short answer, we're working on it. And just yesterday, I was on a phone with our staff about work that is projected to be done over in that side of town.
That's great. And I know that if a resident has a concern such as a pothole or a rough patch of street, they can also report it on Access Wichita.
Or you can just reach out to Megan on her personal cell number, which is, no, kidding. Yes, Access Wichita.
Yeah, and I believe we also have a map that showcases what residential streets will be worked on next. So if you go to wichita.gov under Public Works, you can also see it there.
And just on top of that, we are trying to do more with our technology to let folks know what we are doing. When it comes to street maintenance and also repairs, one of the cool things that we have going on here in Wichita is our street sweepers. You can actually go online and see where our street sweepers are. And I guess kind of watch them. I guess it's probably like watching Pac-Man, right? But watch it and see where they are so that you know what's being done and what isn't being done. And that's part of our commitment, not only to good street service and maintenance, but also to transparency, so that people know, what we have out there and what's happening.
Dwayne Iyer, he's wondering why we can't remove the sand when we do the winter street maintenance, why it can't be removed more often. And it is a safety hazard for cyclists and motorcycle riders. So I think he just wants to make sure that that is removed in a timely manner, and is wondering.
Yeah, it's a interesting balance, right? Like, we need to get sand and salt on the streets when it's cold out, because we don't want cars sliding off the road if there's just a little bit of snow on the ground. Because people still drive if we get like a dusting, but it's still slippery. So this builds up. However, with Kansas weather, we all know Kansas weather, right? You might have your heater on in the morning and you got your air conditioner on in your car at night. So what we'll also find is we get a good day or a nice day and folks get out on their motorcycles, which, who wouldn't? But that sand is still out there. So I think we can work with our staff to try to figure out better what is, looking back, what are the days when we start seeing the end of ice and snow, right? Like, because we're always going to have these like hiccup days where it's cold, 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 and then everything is beautiful for a weekend. People get on their bikes. I doubt there's going to be much we can do during those unexpected days. But moving forward, is there a pattern we can follow so that we can, for the majority of folks on motorcycles, we can make it safer by starting the process of street sweeping, removing sand on particular dates to make it more purposeful.
And then tell us a little bit about last Tuesday. It was our last meeting of the year, in case you're watching this during this week. But we approved some really big things, but one of the things that you've spearheaded this year is the Civil Rights and Diversity and Inclusion Council. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Definitely. There was a lot of stuff that was packed in that meeting because it was the end of the year and we had to get stuff onto that next level. So I'm very proud of the work that our community leaders did, getting together back in June, really when the nation was questioning our commitment to diversity, inclusion, and civil rights, when there was a crisis. And we want to make sure that we didn't just respond in that moment, but we respond with purpose moving forward. Because when it comes to diversity, inclusion, and civil rights, you're not just checking something off a list. There has to be a process to hold folks accountable. Well, after reviewing our ordinances, we learned that we don't have a direct line to the elected body here in Wichita City Council. We do have other groups that are organized who come in and talk to the electeds, but we didn't have like an official council for folks to organize and to come in and talk to us about diversity, inclusion, and civil rights. So that came about during a appointment committee that was designed to advise the mayor on, hey, what's going on? And then the outcome was this ordinance that was passed, where how do we make a standing committee that's job will be to ensure that Wichita remains a place that is good for everyone. So that got passed, and the next step there would be appointing a board, and then also encouraging this board to look at ways Wichita can do more to be open and accepting to all people, which is going to do wonders for us attracting and retaining talent here. Particularly, we're seeing folks who are looking to move inward after the pandemic. We are positioned to be one of those places where we can actually hopefully attract back some of the people who left Wichita, but also business owners, people who are working in the tech industry who might be able to look towards the Midwest as a place to relocate. They want to also make sure that we're a place that fits the modern values of diversity, inclusion, and promotion of civil rights. So that passed, and also I've just got to throw a bit in there about another thing with our domestic violence increasing this year. We were also able to, through the CARES Act money, to take that one-time money and set it aside for a long-term asset, and that's to help the Wichita Family Crisis Center purchase a new location with $800,000, that CARES Act money, federal money coming in, but it will stay in our community once they purchase that new facility for years to come. So that was another thing that passed during the meeting. I think kind of went under the radar, but major stuff that we got done this year, and that was just, like I said, a long meeting, so I think the media can only print so much.
Thanks for asking questions. Again, if we didn't get to your question this month, we will answer it next month, and be sure to continue to write in your questions about Wichita.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching this episode of What's Up Wichita. I try to be as responsive as I can on social media, so please be sure to reach out to me there or email at bwhipple@wichita.gov. If you want to ask questions on next month's show, email social@wichita.gov. You can even send us a short video and asking the question, and we'll play it on the episode. Thanks again for joining us.